Hey, what is up? So for this video, I want to discuss this very intriguing deleted scene from Season 6 of Better Call Saul that was released on the DVD for this final season. And anyway, getting right into it here, this deleted scene is a direct continuation of the infamous wine bar scene from Season 6 of Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Fun and Games, where we see Gus Fring leave a wine bar rather unceremoniously following his conversation with a sommelier. And while I have discussed this scene in depth in a previous video that I will link in the description, the overall premise of this scene is that Gus Fring is so myopically focused on his reason for being revenge against the Salamancas and the cartel that he is incapable of engaging in any sort of relationship, platonic or otherwise, with any individual. Not to mention that were he ever to theoretically be capable of doing this, he would have to, in order to have a true open relationship with this individual, have to be completely transparent with everything that's going on in his life, which would of course include his life as a manufacturer and distributor of methamphetamine, something that he is absolutely not able to fully do as a result of his own makeup and personality that we've seen over the course of these two wonderful shows in this Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul universe. But anyway, in respect to this deleted scene right here, it really doesn't add too much more to the overall story of Gus Fring, and really in the grand scheme of things shows us an additional perspective of Gus Fring leaving the wine bar, pretty much akin to the exact same scene that was displayed to us in this episode of Season 6 of Better Call Saul. So I can definitely understand why it was decided by the creators to omit this scene, as I don't think it really adds too much to this already incredibly philosophical and thought-provoking conclusion to the story of Gus Fring in the universe of Better Call Saul.
Brad, would you let David know that I've been called away?
Of course, Mr. Fring. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
But instead, for this video, what I want to discuss is this question that I really did not discuss or delve into in too much depth in my analysis of this wine bar scene, and that is whether or not Gus Fring and Max Arciniega actually were more than business partners and actually were lovers, as has been insinuated and outright stated by some of the creators of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, and at the same time has also been left much more ambiguous, including by the director of this episode, Fun and Games, Michael Morris, who definitely left it much more ambiguous in respect to Gus Fring's personal life. And so for this video, I'm now going to trudge into this philosophical minefield here in respect to whether or not Gus Fring and Max Arciniega were actually more than business partners. And while I definitely think it's much more plausible that this is the case as a result of the final story of Better Call Saul being displayed to us, I definitely do not think this was the original intention by the creators by any stretch of the imagination. And again, while these are absolutely just my own opinions here in this video, and you are absolutely able to have your own interpretation or disagree with my interpretation, I have to say that this decision seems to have come much more organically from the story as it was written, as opposed to this being the original intention by the creators when Gus Fring's character was first displayed to us all the way back in Season 2 of Breaking Bad. And for example, in Season 3 of Breaking Bad, in the episode entitled Abiquiu, we can see Walter White go over to Gus Fring's house, and very two specific details that were presented to us in this scene include Gus Fring stating that he doesn't get a chance to cook this dish, Paella Marina, too often because quote-unquote kids won't eat it.
This is a Chilean dish that I love, but I never get to make it. Kids won't eat it. But, you know how it is. Sure.
On top of the fact that we also see a brief shot inside of Gus Fring's house where we can see children's toys on the floor, where it definitely seems as though Gus Fring is heavily implying that he has children. It definitely seems to me that the original intention by the creators was to definitely paint Gus Fring as more of a traditional person with a wife and children, and not this much more complex individual with his extremely deep and thought-provoking relationship with his business partner Max Arciniega, because of course that character had not been concocted yet as of the 3rd season of Breaking Bad. And so it definitely seems as though in this moment right here they were painting with a very broad brush and intending for Gus Fring to be a much more traditional character with a traditional marriage and children. Of course, I have seen the theory presented that it's very possible, with the benefit of hindsight, that Gus Fring is trying to manipulate Walter White here and present himself as having a wife and family, because the conversation that these two characters have in this scene directly pertain to Walter White providing for his family, and thus Gus is trying to manipulate Walt in an extent. Of course, at the end of the day, that's just our own speculation here, and while I definitely think that's a way to artistically explain this scene with the benefit of hindsight, it definitely does not seem like that was the original intention by the creators here in this scene. But of course, that is again just my own artistic license speculation in respect to the original intention by the creators of them just being business partners, as opposed to the story that has now morphed and been magnified in many respects as a result of this wine bar scene that was presented to us in the 6th and final season of Better Call Saul. And of course, at the end of the day, I know that some people have said it's pretty much a done deal that Gus and Max were more than business partners, they were also lovers, but at the same time, despite some people feeling that this is the case, at the end of the day, it was left very ambiguous, and it was not as overt as it could have been. And to directly quote the director of this episode in summary in this video, in an interview he did with The Hollywood Reporter following the airing of this episode, he stated, quote, in respect to the romantic undercuts of this scene, that did we want to be overt? No, there's very little contact, if there's any contact. It's a very chaste scene. I do remember that there were takes where we could have found innuendo if we wanted to find innuendo, but we moved away from innuendo. We wanted to be suggestive at best. We don't want to say too much because that's not the point. The point to me isn't if Gus is gay or if he is straight. The point to me is intimacy and trust, and this man is never going to have it, and that's a punishment of sorts, a desperate punishment. And of course, as the director of this episode is stating, that is the overall premise of this scene. As I discussed in the very beginning of this video, it's more about Gus Fring and his lack of his ability to be truly open and truly have a relationship that's honest and transparent of any kind, platonic or otherwise, because of his myopic focus of his revenge against the Salamancas and the cartel. And despite the fact that he was victorious in the moment against Lalo Salamanca and the cartel, at the end of the day, as the scene is alluding to, by the facial expression that Gus gives in the cut that aired in the final episode, as well as this deleted scene that you saw at the very beginning of this video, that is the punishment that Gus has forever been forced to live with as a result of him being completely focused on this revenge. Alright, that's pretty much all I have for you on this video. Like I've said in the past, I really could speculate all day and go back and forth in respect to the story of Gus Fring and all of the ambiguity and undertones and overtones of this scene, as well as the overall story, but I would definitely love to know what people are thinking in the comment section of this video in respect to this overall story, as whether or not you agree with the fact that this deleted scene was cut. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I really feel like it doesn't really add too much more to the scene we saw in this episode, and is really just an alternate take of Gus Fring leaving the wine bar. And in many respects, I kind of like the original take a little bit better than this one. It's even more ambiguous, and I do love the artistic final shot of the wine glass on the counter as opposed to Gus walking into the distance. At the end of the day, it's up to the interpretation of the audience which one you like more. But with all of that being said, my name is Anton Jackson. As always, thank you so much for watching this video.